Hello, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast of episode 1, take 2 of the Concealer Chronicles. I am Rachel Moore, and I am your host, and I am having a tech morning again. It's like I can't get enough coffee, and therefore my laptop in conjunction is also not getting enough coffee. So in any case, cheers. We're going to keep calm and carry on because that's all we can do. And I hope you're having a great morning. I am here with you, actually without anyone else in the house. For those of you who don't know, I am married with 2 children, and we live in a small little house in Denver, which is pretty much all anyone can afford anymore. Thankfully, we got this house like 5 years ago before it just became impossible. So for those of you who are trying to move in the Denver area, I apologize. I wish I could wave a magic wand or do something. It's just getting ridiculous. But that's where we are, and that's the house in which I sit. And I am in my homegrown studio, if you will. You can tell it's a Saturday morning because I obviously have hey, that's why we call it the Concealer Chronicles. I mean, there's only so much you can do sometimes, and why bother sometimes? You're here, you're showing up in person, and you're being for real. I am going to take a moment, and this is a live stream, and I will be editing this into a podcast. So naturally, I'm going to be doing some editing of what's about to happen, but I do need to share this. So you guys can laugh about this. I had some technical issues. I'm going to talk my way through this as I navigate around my desktop, or my laptop rather. See, more coffee. I've had technical issues with this from the get-go, which I know will iron out. And in the end, it's about the content. It's not necessarily about the stuff. But I had such a technical issue with Wednesday's show launch. So I was trying a new way. I used OBS, it's open broadcasting software. You can download it from the internet. It tends to work just fine. I had never before used it to go live on Facebook. Actually, that's not true. This is the second time I'd used it. So I was using it to produce a show and go live through Facebook Live. And I did it so I could show them the opener you saw at the beginning of this broadcast. And so it just makes it easier. However, whatever setting or whatever happened, incredibly crackly through the whole thing. So much so that when I listened back to it, I'm like, I can't keep that. I actually am totally impressed with people who were hanging in there and watching, and in spite of the crackliness, because had it been me, and I'm sure a few people did this, I would have just been like, bye, I'm skating to another broadcast or somewhere else because I cannot tolerate the noise I'm getting through your system right now. So that was what happened with the show launch. So and again, this just goes to show that you should always coffee up adequately, or get a Rockstar, whatever your caffeinated process is. You should always take care of that before you try to broadcast, because then there was this morning. So I was all set. I had things ready. I had, my kind of hack to show you guys the opener video and get the audio in there too, which of course I'm going to listen on playback and see if that worked. And I shared the broadcast and everything. What had happened was I opened the wrong broadcast and was ready to go live in that. And then it tells me, well, you can go live in 4 days. I was like, but it's going live in 10 seconds. What's happening? I had the wrong broadcast open. Again, keep calm and carry on. We're going to carry on. I am actually sharing the broadcast once again into my group Let's Learn to include podcasts, because we obviously do a ton of that. Let's see, this is a fixer post since I need more coffee, evidently. All right, and I'm allowed to post twice in that group because it's my group. So, I'm going to post that in there to make sure people can find us. And again, just thank you guys for watching, whether you're watching live or watching the replay. Now that that's all done, this is the Concealer Chronicles, and again, I'm your host, Rachel Moore. I hope that this becomes a great community of discussion and learning. This community is focused on women in charge. Now, you could be a woman or someone who identifies as a woman. I want to be clear about that. And we are here to share the good, the bad, and the very real stories of being a woman in charge. Now, I put woman in charge because that can encompass so many things, right? It can be that you're in charge of a household. That is absolutely a real thing, and probably the least appreciated job on the planet when a woman is in charge of a household, whether that means your own household and you're single, or you do have the ancillary individuals and dependents, pets, children. Let's talk about those children, and then what have you, siblings. Perhaps you're caring for an elderly adult. I mean, there's so many things that a woman can be in charge of just in that scope. Then we can talk about entrepreneurs, business women, people, women who are CEOs of huge corporations, or they're working out of their house to grind out a new company and create something brand new. Or let's just go over to hobbies then too. There are women who are experts and just are the boss at extracurricular activities, or hiking, or fly fishing, or knitting and sewing, or cooking. Not me. There are all kinds of things that we can govern and that we do govern. We take care of a lot of crap, women. We really do. There's just so much to cover. And when I started this community and show, I knew there'd be an endless pipeline of things that we could talk about and cover. So I appreciate you hanging in here. And again, knowing how women, we obviously we get opinionated and we have strong thoughts and feelings about things, but the whole goal of this is to learn. And I was just talking with someone yesterday about the need for empathy today, to really discover what it's like to live in someone else's shoes before draw a conclusion, to really try to understand that. And that's what I really want to get to. That's why we're sharing these stories, because every person's story is valid. It's legitimate to them. And that's what we're doing. Now, today's story and experience is really, it can be broadly based, and it's about, it's lighthearted, a little levity for the first episode. It's about getting back to school season. So we're in back to school season. I'm going to pull up my notes here on my phone, since, you guys had the benefit of hearing my phone in the microphone to actually play the opening broadcast. Now I've got to back out and get some other things on here. So it's back to school season. I actually am sipping some coffee that has peppermint mint creamer in it, which I can only ever get during the holidays. So I haven't seen pumpkin spice creamer yet. I am not one of those women that goes and runs to the nearest Starbucks as soon as the pumpkin spice latte is out. I used to do that. But I often find myself, A, liking saving the money. B, I kind of just like the little bit of pumpkin and not all the other things that come with the pumpkin spice latte. It just feels like, oh my gosh. I also like their salted caramel lattes, but oh my God, I don't remember this being this sweet. And maybe it was just that barista who just was like, you need some more sugar in your life. And I said, no. So I'm going to take a sip of coffee here. It's not as hot as it used to be. So in any case, we're here, and I want to run through a little bit. And by the way, I do believe I shared the link. Let me do that really quick. In case anybody would like to hop in, I'm going to share the link. Share your vent or benefit about back to school with me. And I'm going to share the show link here in a comment so that people can hop in and do that if they'd like. I would love that, because I've been using the last month, witnessing all of these back to school forays happening around me, and also the ones I'm involved in personally, really trying to kind of grab and see if I could create a list of not just the back to school things that affect me as a parent, but also the ones that affect someone who doesn't have to worry about my children, that they're just trying to go, but we're going to talk about today. And I have a lovely list here. Let me just find my recents here. Where are you? Go back. I'm in my Google. By the way, I love Google. I live off Google. Google is my friend. Is Google your friend? We should do a show about just Google, about how women use Google. How many Google calendars do you have? Post in the comments. I have I have 4. And that includes my work one, because my work actually goes off G Suite. So we use a Google Calendar there. But I have 4. I have my own personal home business one, because, when I do these live streams, that's in a podcast, that's part of my home business. I have a family one. I have a school one, because sometimes I feel like that's separate from family stuff. It's mostly focused just on the kids. And then I have my work one. So I have 4 Google Calendars. Amazingly, my husband doesn't seem to be able to ever access any of them. I always just get the verbal, what's going on today? I'm like, well, let's go look at the Google Calendar you have access to and figure that out. All right, so back to school. First of all, I wish I could play taps right now on demand. Had I had more foresight, I would have it on my phone. Let's pour one out for summer. Summer is officially over. It's over, people. We are in the midst of September. As soon as, like I said, as soon as those pumpkin spice lattes hit the baristas, the way. So we need to just let it be done. We'll see you next year, summer, and be sad. I am not that sad. I love fall, so I'm really looking forward to the next 3 weeks of fall, because that's all we get here in Colorado really before we start hitting winter season. But I'm going to enjoy every second of it, including my peppermint. So pour one out for summer. It's over, and we are now in the midst. And have you guys seen the leaves changing? If you're in a place where leaves are changing, that's already happening too. My tomatoes are finally ripening. I'm going to see how many I can get off the plant before it dies. But we're back to school. So the first thing I want to ask you guys and just share and relate about is, did you see how your feed on Facebook and Instagram just blew up with all of the pictures of the kids going back to school where their moms made them hold the signs? Now, if you are a mom who did that, it's fine. We're talking about it. My kids do that because I've never done that before, and I can imagine if I tried to implement it now, not that they're older and really cannot be bent to my will so easily, but I saw so many of those images where you'd see that the children, whether in their school uniform and their first day best, whatever outfit they'd gotten, their backpack ready, and they've got the sign saying what grade they're going to go into. And I don't know about you, but I did see a myriad of different faces and expressions. And my favorites were the ones where the child just looked like, I will destroy you as soon as I'm tall enough. And they're holding the sign, just looking at their mom like, Because to me, it's like, why don't you just have them stretch out their arms, put a little paper cut on it, and then pour some salt on it? Because you're basically sending them back to school. And unless they're one of those children that really dig school, they're not feeling that excitement. They're like, whatever, I can't believe you. Oh, and you're making me celebrate this? I can't believe that, right? So it really does create this context where the mom is all like, yay. And the kid's like, ugh. Now, again, this show is about women in charge. So we're not necessarily here to interview the kids. I feel like there's tons of excitement from the women and the parents. I'm not saying it's just women doing it, but I kind of got that flavor from it. It seems like a very womanly thing to do, where it's like, oh, you're going to put up a C, or, make it from a Pinterest, and I'm going to make it for you. It's going to be beautiful. I'm just speaking from experience of my husband. I could never see him saying, hey, let's make a really cool sign that no, he wouldn't do that. He'd probably figure out some ways my kid could flip the camera off strategically without actually flipping it off, and somehow incorporate the number of the grade that they're going into. And I see we have a man watching too, Alfredo. Thank you. He drops his son off for school. So props to you. I think that's awesome. I drop my kids off in the morning, and my husband drops them off at night. At night. God, they're not there all day. But that's great. And Alfredo, I would love to hear from you in the comments too, here on Facebook Live, if you made them hold a sign up or took pictures of them for the first day. Now, I will usually take pictures on the first day and share those, but I didn't even get a chance to do that this year, so I totally failed. But I saw that in my feed, and I just got such a kick out of seeing the expressions of these kids, and just like, oh my God, I can't believe you're making me do this. So there was that, and that was your kind of big first hint. I was seeing those as early as like August 15th, which just made me go crazy. Now let's talk about something else. So we're going to flip the coin here a little bit and talk about something that would impact people who aren't getting kids ready for school per se, but they're definitely feeling it. Now, if in any way, shape, or form, it's okay. And you have been doing that all summer, and you're on your way to work, and all of a sudden you come up to the school zone that has been dark all summer, but now it's lit up and flashing at you and saying, hold up, you need to slow down by at least 10 miles an hour for the next 150 yards. And so you might have thought you were going to get to school or get to work at a certain time, and now that has been put in jeopardy because you're like, oh no, oh God, it is, school started again, and now I'm stuck in a school zone. It's too late at that point to find a side street usually, so you might as well just muscle through. Now, the thing with school zones on the first day is that everybody, including the parents who already know that school, are in brand new mode, right? They're all driving slow, looking, wide-eyed around like, where do I go? I want to make sure, I'm driving very slow appropriately so, because I don't want to, there are tons of kids and their parents out. I mean, it's first they're trying to be very careful. And so they're trying to just take it slow, and thus making it slow for everyone else who's really just happened upon the newly reestablished school zone and is like, I just need to get to the other side so I get to work. So there's the school zone thing. It impacts everyone who drives and commutes to work. Okay, so there's that. And I really am sorry for those of you who I did this too earlier this year, where I was trying a new route and I was talking to the kids, and I entered a school zone, and I was about 10 yards in, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going too fast. So you're like, So I'm sure I got dirty looks from the people behind me who knew, okay, sorry, oh my gosh, it's really important. So school zones are important, but that is something that affects the non-parenting crowd out there, okay? If you are just trying to get out on the roads, it's definitely a thing. Let's flip the coin again to the people who are actually preparing their kids for school every day, making the lunches. This is such an ordeal, unless you have your kids just totally dialed in. But you are often trying to get them food in their lunch bags and trying to talk to them in the morning saying, okay, I'm going to put this in your lunch. How do you feel about that? And you just get, okay. Now, that is not the ideal reaction to get from your child when later, when they're ravenous and they open their lunch and see what you've put into it. How are they going to feel about it then? Is what you just prepared going to end up in the hands of another kid because they bartered it off? All right. And I know that happens. I know my kids do it. My absolute favorite underscored not favorite thing is when I ask my son if he had enough snacks, and he comes home. He's like, well, I did give something to, Johnny. Well, okay. Did Johnny have enough snacks? Yeah, he just doesn't like what his mom puts in his lunch. I'm like, okay. Well, I really appreciate you trying to make sure your classmate was not going hungry. Really appreciate that. And I said, and I want to encourage that if you ever do have a classmate who is just, they don't have enough food, and you do, or that you can get through, that's fine. I'm totally okay to be giving snacks in that realm. But if it's just about Johnny doesn't like the carrot sticks that his mom sent with him and he'd prefer your fig bar instead, yeah, I'm gonna raise a red flag at that. So, because it's just hard. We have a Costco membership that is allowing us to buy in bulk for these children who are eating. I don't know how they're putting all that away. It's crazy. And I'm just circling back to school zones. Alfredo saying one way he avoids a school zone is driving the opposite direction. There are 3 schools in your neighborhood. Does that work? Because pretty much it's both ways where we are. If you are heading past that school, both sides of the road have to go slow. If you have a way that you're getting around that, props to you. It's really difficult. And you do start adopting those alternate routes to go, although usually it takes you through a lot more stop signs, because then you're like, gotta turn, gotta stop, gotta turn. All right. So preparation of lunches is tough. Now here's the other thing. So school buses. Flipping the coin again to something that affects everyone. If your child gets on a school bus, that's one thing, because then you've got to make sure they get out and get it to it in time. God forbid they have to catch it and you've already left for work. That was how I was when I was growing up. My parents had already long gone for work, and I was responsible for getting out to the bus. What do I do? And I had nothing I could do. I had to call somebody, one of our neighbors, to see if they could go, take me. So that was a problem. But I experienced this myself, and I do see school buses around our area. And I had adjusted our morning schedule by about 10 minutes earlier. I said, hey kids, I have a new job I just started, and I need us to get you to school about 10 minutes earlier. You got to wait outside a little bit, but I just want to make sure I'm getting there in time for this first week. So we head out, and apparently that 10-minute differential created a inevitable collision course, not literal collision, but with a bus that goes up our road. So I tried to go up our normal route, and there's the bus. And Alfredo loved the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. Except this bus's wheels were not going round and round. It was stopped. All right. And this is where I hit the moment, because when a school bus stops, it needs to allow kids to cross in front of it, it'll put out the stop sign, right? And I, at one point, this was about 2.5 years ago, again, I was talking to the kids absentmindedly, and I almost didn't stop for a stop sign on a bus. Now, no kids were crossing the road that moment, but that matters very little because it really was bad that I was about to go through that. I realized it last minute, and I slammed on the brakes, and I got, rightly so, I got evil glares from all the parents that were there, because I did. I mean, had there been a kid, that would have been a bad deal. I'm just being fully transparent. I still obviously think about that moment. So I came up to this bus. It did not have a stop sign out. I stopped anyway. I'm like, I just want to make sure. I want to make sure. Am I getting the rule? And I'm sure I could have gone by. The guy behind me, though, wasn't honking at me. So I think we were okay. But the bus driver and the parent dropping off the kids started having a nice old conversation, and they were just talking and talking and talking. So we sat there for about 5 minutes. So the school bus itself, too, also put me behind. It's like a school zone on wheels, right? And so that's what happened there. And I realized that running across the school bus on the way to where we were trying to get to during school hours. So best of luck with that. But I appreciate school buses. I rode one all during my school career growing up. My kids have not yet had the benefit of it because we drive them, which who knew I was ever going to be doing that. The last thing I want to touch on as we're getting close to the end of the show, and this is one that affects everyone, and I'd love to hear your opinions on this too, is the Petri dish that is the school that is now populated once again after a full summer with all of the children. And each of them is bringing their own germs into the school and sharing the germs. It's all about sharing when you get to school. You always learn to share, and that goes for the sickness as well. So usually within 2 to 3 weeks of school starting up, you get the benefit of being shared with all these germs and having that given to you, bestowed upon you. Now, if you're a parent, it's a given. You're totally going to get sick. Because your kids, they're coming from it. You can Lysol all you want. Nazim, hello from Italy. You can Lysol all you want. You're still going to totally get sick, and it's going to move its way through the household. So there's the parenting part of the Petri dish that is returning to school. But then if you happen to be a parent or someone who lives with a child who has gone to school and has brought the sick home, and you have to go to your own office, and you work somewhere, and you decide you're going to muscle through, even though you're feeling under the weather, and you're going to go. Well, guess what? Now you have just included and brought into the circle of the sickness all of your coworkers, and they can't get away from it now. So it really is the gift that keeps on giving, that your kid gets sick, brings it home, you get sick, and you take it to work with you. Or it doesn't have to be work. It could be your little friends group or whatever. You're just like, no, I need to go. I need to go. I can muscle through. I don't feel that bad. Well, that's nice for you, because now you're going to give the germs to everybody. And I see some people commenting, Nazim and Alfredo, about dealing with the sick being brought home, and the reminder: washing hands. Yes, washing hands. Sanitizer's fine, but I have heard things that sometimes they take away too many germs, like the good bacteria. But it is a never-ending cycle. That's right, Nazim. It's a never-ending cycle. And if you can get through, I think last year was the first year that we all got through the first month of school and didn't get sick once. It happened right after that month. But I remember it vividly, thinking, wow, we got through and didn't have any sickness. That's awesome. So with that, I'll share the link again if anyone actually, we're almost to the end of the show, so I will not share the link at the moment since it's a little late for people to come in. But your biggest vent or your biggest benefit about getting back to school, if you want to share it in the comments. When I edit this and put out the podcast, I can include some of those and even link to you, if you like, in the post that accompanies the podcast. So would love to include that. But your biggest vent about the back to school season, share it in the comments. Or if you have something you're like, thank God, I love that it's back to school season, share that in the comments too. Would love to hear back from you. Now, with the Concealer Chronicles, this is a special one-off show because I had to do a redo from Wednesday's show, and I covered that at the beginning of this broadcast, just had an awful microphone technical difficulty and didn't realize it till afterward. And I want to thank Jeff Adams and I think Kim Gaskill had both said, it's really crackly in the audio, but I didn't get that notification until the end of the show. So you guys, if you ever hear that something's awry or, oh my gosh, I can't hear you or anything, tell me right away in the comments and I'll do my best to fix it. So this can be a fun, quality, valuable broadcast to you, and they get edited to the podcast, which is why this show will regularly happen on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. And it'll be right here on this page, same place. And there should be a post already up for next week's show. And I want to tease that out briefly before we wrap this up. Next week's show, on Wednesday evening at 9 p.m., we're going to have a guest. Emily Maxima is her handle on Twitter. And she is a transgender civilian, former military. And I reached out to her because she's going to come on the show and just share her experiences and her story. Particularly in light of the fact that there is right now a transgender ban partially in effect and probably going fully into effect very soon, implemented by the United States administration. So we want to talk to her about that and go to the source, right? I reached out to her on Twitter. I saw her commenting about it, and I asked her, I'm like, look, I would like to make this a topic because it's very timely, it's very pertinent, and talk about a woman in charge. She is it. I mean, you talk about a military woman and also a transgender too. She's going to give us a great experience, and I really encourage you to tune in. If you have had questions or just wondering about what it's like, she's being very bold and coming on and sharing that with us. So I'm very excited about next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here. So look for the post on the Facebook page. It should be just down a few posts underneath this one. And make plans to join us. Thank you so much, Nazim and Alfredo, for joining too and being my VIP commenters during this broadcast. Invite your friends, tag them in the comments. If you have somebody you think this show would be relevant for or interesting, tag them. And I'd love that if they'd come watch and also just be part of the upcoming broadcast. So, and once the podcast goes live, I'm going to get a couple episodes in, and then we'll start releasing that on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play. I'll release those links as well, so you guys can go subscribe and have this in your earbuds. A little bit shorter, a little bit edited, but totally fun. Thank you guys. I hope your coffee is working well with you. Thank you for joining the show. Thank you for sticking with me for take 2, because like I said, we got to make some quality content and we got to do redos when we need to. I hope you guys have a great day. And until then, share your stories, the good, the bad, and the very real stories of women in charge, whether this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern for the next show of the Concealer Chronicles. Have a great weekend.